So are bullion dealers ripping people off, or are they just trying to survive in what is a very tough market? Today I'm going to break down the truth about the people behind the counter, and just so you know, it's not all black and white. For example, I'll talk about fair dealers, who right now, there's one that I know that has a spread on Silver Eagles that's just around $2 between their buy and their sell. That is well under 10%. And I'll also tell you a story about a dealer that did one of the biggest rip-offs I've ever heard of, and I've shared it on the channel before, but if you haven't heard it, I'll just tell you that this dealer should be in jail. So make sure you stick around for that story and more, but do me a favor, if you have any stories about bullion dealers, good or bad, that you've experienced, leave a comment down below because I want to see them. I'm going to read every single comment on this video, and I want to hear your stories about bullion dealers. So do that, and do me a favor, don't forget to like and subscribe and help us continue to grow. And also, if you're looking for a new bullion dealer and have never checked out SD Bullion, new customers can get 5 ounces of silver or a 10-gram gold bar at spot by going to sdbullion.com/new. Thank you to SD Bullion for sponsoring my channel. Now keep in mind, this is just a podcast style video, so feel free to minimize the screen and just listen. I won't put anything important on the screen, but this is all just my opinion. And I want to start by saying that most people, I won't say most people, but I think what some people don't understand about dealers is they aren't just middlemen. Like, coin dealers are actually running a business. They have overhead, they have rent, insurance, security, payroll, and I'm sure other expenses as well that I can't even imagine right now. Dealers don't go into work and do this for free. They're not doing it to you as a favor. They're in the business to make money. Now, I've gotten a lot of comments from people over the years, especially when I'm interviewing coin dealers or when I'm calling coin shops. They will ask the question of, well, if coin dealers believe in gold and silver is real money, then why are they selling it? Well, last I checked, most landlords, I'm not saying all of them, there's always going to be exceptions, but most landlords, insurance companies, security people, and even employees, they don't accept gold and silver as payment. And the reason for that is that while I believe, and I'm sure most of you watching this believe, that gold and silver are real money, what gold and silver is not, especially in the US, is currency. And I think that's where a lot of people get confused, because there is actually a difference between money and currency. Money is a store of value. It's going to hold its value over time. It's durable, divisible, portable, and scarce. I've actually talked about this on the channel many, many times. And historically, that has been gold and silver. Gold and silver have been used as money for over 5,000 years. It's easily divisible. It's portable, although there is arguments to be made that silver is not very portable because of its weight. But gold is very portable. It's very divisible, and it is scarce. Meanwhile, currency is just a medium of exchange. Now, gold and silver can be used as currency, and it has in the past, for example, when we were backed by gold and silver in the US, but it no longer is. And, you know, the US dollar, the euro, the yen, it's not backed by anything anymore. It is, by definition, a fiat dollar. It is backed by nothing, but it is what we use for day-to-day transactions. So, for example, like I said, those employees, they need their paychecks in cash, or US dollars, I should say, so that they can pay their rent with it, so they can fill their gas tanks, so they can go to the grocery store. Again, there are exceptions. There are going to be some businesses, some landlords, you know, even some grocery stores, who knows, some gas stations that will accept gold and silver. But for the most part, in almost all instances, except for a few, they are going to want the US dollar. But unfortunately for the US dollar, and I know all of you know this watching this, the US dollar will lose value over time due to inflation. It's designed to do so. Since 1964, I've said many times, a silver quarter will buy you a gallon of gas in 64, and it will do so still today. But a US dollar from 1964, a $1 bill in 1964 could have gotten you nearly 4 gallons of gas. Tell me anywhere in the US that you can get even a half gallon of gas for a $1 bill today. So that goes to show you the difference between currency and money. And that is exactly why those businesses, even bullion dealers, even coin shops, have to work on the US dollar. It's unfortunate, but it's true. Until we get to a point where we can actually spend gold and silver once again, till we get to the point where real money is also being used as currency, those businesses will still need to receive US dollars, and they will still need to profit in US dollars. But another thing to consider when thinking about bullion dealers is that they are actually taking on a real risk. Now, obviously, gold and silver is money. I've just said that, and over the course of a long history, or a long period of time, I should say, they will continue to gain value. At least I believe they will. But in the short term, so for example, as I'm recording this right now, gold is $3,400 an ounce. It was $2,000 an ounce like 2 years ago. So gold is way up there, and there is nothing guaranteeing that gold won't take a massive crash overnight. So you have a business that's buying an asset that does have the potential to lose value overnight, and they have to consider that as well. So that's why you'll see a lot of bullion dealers that will buy inventory, and if they have too much inventory over what they like to keep in stock, I will say, they will move it out as quick as they can. So a lot of bullion dealers will actually work with like wholesalers or other bullion dealers to move excess product because they have to worry about that risk. But even with that, so if you go to a bullion dealer on a Saturday and sell them a bunch of gold, it might drop Monday morning before they even have the chance to move it out. So that is something else that you have to consider when you're running a bullion shop that they have to deal with. You know, for me and you, when we buy our gold and silver, if, you know, well, maybe for me, I know I'm not everybody, but when I buy, you know, a kilo silver bar, if it drops on Monday, I don't care that much because I didn't buy it with the intent to turn around to resell it right away anyway. But bullion dealers don't necessarily have that luxury. And when they're buying bullion across the counter at your demand, even in a market where more people are selling than buying, they have to consider that. They have to consider that they might actually take a loss before they get a chance to move it. Okay, so we've established that, you know, bullion dealers need to make money. And I do apologize about going on that topic for so long, but this is a podcast and sometimes I just talk. That being said, that does not give bullion dealers the right to be shady or to rip people off. And I'm going to tell you one of the worst stories I've ever heard in just a second. But first, let me tell you a good one. There is a bullion dealer near me right now. They advertise their prices on their website. And I'm just going to give you an example. I'm not going to put anything on the screen since it's a podcast. But they have silver priced right now. Well, the silver spot price is $32.68. Their 2025 American Silver Eagles, they are paying, if you were to take it into them and sell it, and by the way, they do honor this price. Not only do they honor it, but when you go in, they pull up the same sheet on their website to check prices themselves when they're buying. So 2025 American Eagles, right now, they're paying $35.03. That is spot plus $2.35. They are selling 2025 American Silver Eagles right now for $37.38. That is also $2.35 difference from their buy price. So they are only making $2.35, assuming that spot doesn't go down between the time they buy it and they sell it. If you don't know what the math looks like, with spot at $32.68, they are only making a difference of around 7%. Now, 7% may seem like a lot, but if you go into a Walmart, I doubt, and I don't know for sure, but I doubt there's a single product in Walmart where they're only making 7%. Most of the markups in places like Walmart are somewhere between 15 and 25%. So 7% for a business that has employees, rent, overhead, security, so on and so forth, and they're buying a risky commodity that could drop. And I don't mean risky in a long form. I mean risky from day to day that could drop before they sell it. 7% is not bad. But it gets even lower than that. They're 1 ounce gold Eagles. And by the way, the reason I'm not saying who this is, because if I do say it, people will say, oh, well, you're just doing this to plug this shop. So I'm not saying who they are, but this shop right now, 1 ounce American Silver Eagles, they have spot at $34.17. They are buying 1 ounce American Silver Eagles for $33.95. That is around $20 back of spot. However, they are selling them for $35.05. So the difference between their buy and their sell is only $110. That is only around 3%. That means if gold drops just a couple $100, or not even a couple $100, if it drops $110, they're breaking even. If it drops $120, they are losing money. And gold can easily drop $100 in one day very, very quickly. So that is an example of a good shop. And I'm going to tell you some things that you should look for to make sure that your shop is good, because maybe not all shops can do this well. Some shops are slower and they can't be this tight. I totally understand that. But I will tell you things to look for with shops that let you know if they're being honest or being shady. Now, here is an example of a shady shop, and this is third-party information. This comes from someone I know who literally witnessed this, and it still kind of boils my blood to this day. If you've been a watcher of the channel for any amount of time, you've probably heard the story before. And I might be telling it a little bit off because you know how things get fuzzy in your head over time. But essentially what happened, he was in one of those gold buyer shops, like the ones that, you know, advertised, especially back in 2011, 2012, when gold was running up, that we buy gold, but sell us your jewelry, sell us your old gold, sell us your broken jewelry. Well, this lady had this bucket, and I don't know how big the bucket was, but he said bucket, of what he said were definitely 90% silver coins. You know what they look like. You can see the edges. I mean, even from far away, you can tell if it's all 90% or if it's a bunch of modern silver. There is a color difference. So anyway, she gets one of the employees to help her bring in this bucket of coins from the car. So he walks it in and puts it up on the counter, and she tells him that her husband, her late husband, by the way, who had just recently passed, had been saving these for years so that she would have them if she ever needed them for a rainy day or whatever. And she wanted to know what they were worth and sell them. The guy looks at it and tells her that unfortunately, these are just coins. He must have been saving them, saving his pocket change, and they're only worth their face value. Then he offers to put them through his machine and count them up and give her the cash so that she doesn't have to walk around with this heavy bucket of coins. Yes, I did not witness it myself, but I believe the story 100% from the person who told it to me, and it still boils my blood to this day. And I'm sure it does you, so let me know if that story upsets you as much as it does me, but that's not the only one. There's been things like fake buyback offers, so I've done coin shop call videos, and I've called shops, and I know most of them are being honest, but I'm sure some of them have said, numbers that they wouldn't honor if you actually walked into the shop. I'm not going to pretend that doesn't happen. There's dealers that have knowingly sold cleaned coins as BU, like they'll clean them themselves and they'll put them in a 2x2 and mark them as BU. And so many other stories that I've heard, maybe not as bad as the one that I just told, but definitely some really bad stories. That being said, there are ways that we can, spot what a good dealer is versus a bad dealer. Let me give you an idea of what maybe a good dealer is going to look like. So a good dealer is going to have very transparent pricing. Now, maybe not as transparent as the shop that I just talked about, with advertising their prices online. But when you walk in, they're going to tell you what they're selling it for, how much of it is over spot. They will explain the premiums and why the premiums are the way they are. Good shops will explain the differences between, say, rounds and eagles, and how you get more silver with with rounds than you would with eagles because of the premium difference. But with eagles, you will get a little bit more back when you sell them. And they're not going to try and push on you incredibly high premium items or push to you like slabbed eagles, say, oh, you should get 20 of these MS69 eagles. They're only $5 more per coin, but they're in a protective holder. They're not going to say things like that unless you ask about it. Now, I'm not saying they won't sell those products, but there's a difference between just selling those products to the people that are looking for them and pushing them on people so that they can make a higher profit margin. But yes, of course, good shops are also going to carry those products, and there is definitely a customer for them. No argument there. But if someone is coming in to get, a 10-ounce silver bar, a good shop's not going to try and push them into 10 slab silver eagles, costing them way more money just to make a higher margin, like I said. And the same can be said when going to sell your gold or silver to a good coin shop. A good coin shop is not going to show resistance or get upset at you for asking what they're selling something for when you're selling them that item. So for example, if I walk into a good coin shop and I want to sell them a 10-ounce bar and they say, all right, we'll pay you $310, they're not going to get upset or embarrassed to tell you that they're selling that same bar for $340 or $350 or whatever it may be. I don't know what the spreads are going to be, but my point is they are confident in their buy and sell prices and are not afraid to share both of them with somebody, whether they're buying or selling from them. A bad shop, on the other hand, if you walk into a shop and with a 10-ounce bar and they say, we'll give you $250. And then you say, oh, well, what are you selling it for? They'll probably get upset at you and not want to tell you that they're selling it for $350. A bad coin shop is not going to want to have other customers in the store when they're buying from you. And the reason for that is they don't want other people to see how bad they're ripping off their customers when they're buying product from them. They don't want witnesses to see them taking advantage of somebody else. So a bad coin shop, this is not a good coin shop. A good coin shop doesn't care. A good coin shop is happy to have other people in the shop with them because that's more security. And keep in mind, that's not to say that they won't offer privacy. Sometimes customers do not want other people to see what they're selling or what they have, and I totally understand that. But the difference is that a bad shop will specifically want to make sure that no one else sees what's going on, whereas a good shop will offer that. They will offer to do it privately. They will offer to maybe take you somewhere where no one else is watching, or offer you a time where you can just do it between you and them so that no one else sees. But they're not going to be upset if somebody walks in with, say, just a 10-ounce bar and is wanting to sell the 10-ounce bar. A bad shop's not even going to want people to sit there and watch them buy that 10-ounce bar in the scenario like I said earlier. So yes, I do understand that security is an issue for some people, and good shops will offer that security. They will offer that privacy. But the good shops also won't be upset if somebody else is just watching a regular, few $100 transaction on a 10-ounce bar, or maybe a tube of rounds or some Eagles or whatever it may be. And another thing a good shop is not going to be upset with that the bad shop may be upset with is if you tell them that you are shopping around to get the best price. A good shop has no problem with you taking your product elsewhere because, one, they believe that you should get the most that you can and that people should be fair with you, but also they are confident in what they're offering you. So they're not concerned that you're going to go somewhere else because what they offered you is a fair price. Whereas a bad shop, I have actually seen this personally, not just a third-party story, where a bad shop, when told that you're shopping around, will just refuse to deal with you. They'll be like, oh, well, I'm not interested, and they'll send you on your way. Why is that? Well, it's probably because they know that they are going to make you a lowball offer, or that that's all they want to pay is a lowball offer, and that you're just going to go elsewhere, and then you're probably going to leave them a bad review because they offered you half of what the shop down the street offered, or whatever it may be. So I'm not saying that a lot of shops do that, but I have actually seen it before where a bad shop literally will refuse to deal with you if you tell them that you're shopping around. And to be honest with you, if you tell a shop that you're shopping around and then they refuse to deal with you, that's probably not somewhere you want to sell your gold and silver anyway. So my final thoughts here are that I believe that most, definitely not all, but most bullion dealers are just trying to make an honest living in a very tight margin business. That being said, there are definitely some bad apples out there, some shady dealers that will not hesitate to take advantage when they have the opportunity to do so. And what you can do to avoid that is just make sure that you are informed and that you know what's going on in the market and that you take the time to shop around and research so that when you go to a dealer, you will know if you're being taken advantage of, or if you might be, or if you should definitely go somewhere else. And to be honest with you, I think even with good dealers, you should always take the time to shop around because you never know if another dealer could do even better than your good one. And I think if we all did that, if every one of us did that, the market would work itself out and the bad dealers would have to either become good dealers and be more fair with their customers, or they would just go out of business. And I certainly don't want somebody to go out of business or lose their job. I'm not saying that at all. What I am saying is that I want all dealers to be fair, not just a lot of them. I want them all to be fair. So I don't think that's ever going to happen, but it would be nice. But let me know what you think. Comment down below. Please let me know. I want to hear from you. Don't forget to like this video and help YouTube recommend it to others. Don't forget to subscribe and help us continue to grow. I really appreciate it. And over half the people watching aren't even subscribed yet, so that would be great. Guys, thank you so much again for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next time.